Okay, so this is the last part of the tutorial for making top trumps, and we're going to deal with InDesign. Now, InDesign is a great package. It's a lot of people kind of avoid it. I think certainly beginners avoid it because it's hard to see the benefits straight away. A lot of the things you can do in InDesign, you can do in Illustrator and also Photoshop. But there's some really key advantages in InDesign, and it will become more obvious when you start dealing with bigger and bigger images and more complex layouts. It's got more scope to do layouts than anything else. I mean, Illustrator is designed to illustrate; it's not designed for layouts. Photoshop is ideally for photos and photo manipulation. It's not really for laying out. But as with all programs these days, the bigger they get, the more things they kind of can do. So you tend to get quite a lot of overlap. Okay, so anyway, we've got our files here. We've got the 4 files that we originally had, and we've got the Illustrator and the Photoshop file, which we manipulated, both called Wiley Dog. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go ahead and open up InDesign. I'm just going to click on that. So this is InDesign. I'm just going to see if I can get up. There you go, welcome screen. So you may or may not get this welcome screen. As I said several times before, I don't use these welcome screens. I find them annoying. So I'm just going to go ahead and click that. Now, there again, I've got my palettes up here, and I've got my toolbar. And it's all, it's fairly similar. A lot of the tools are almost identical to Illustrator, and you'll find a lot of overlap. Now, that once again, you've got some various different workspaces. Dan 3 is mine, and you've got some different versions there, and you can obviously set your own one. Okay, going back to the desktop, I'm going to click on the InDesign template. I'm just going to double click on it. That's going to open InDesign. Okay, so this is the first time we're seeing the parts together. Now, once again, we're going to go through a lot of this in future lessons, but essentially I've already combined the elements to create the layout, which is the top trump card. But as you can see, it's got the older stuff in it. We haven't got the name in there. We haven't got the statistics here, and the image is the old image. So we need to do something about that, and we need to swap these out for the right ones. Okay, so first of all, you can see that everything looks a bit pixelated, and at first that kind of feels a bit worrying. Thinking, what's going on? But that's just because if you can imagine someone, as a layout program, if you're doing a front page of a newspaper, you might have like 20 images and a whole bunch of text, and for the machine or the computer to constantly draw and display those images at high resolution means that things slow down. So as a way of helping itself, it always shows you a low resolution version. You can obviously override this, and I'm just about to show you how to do that. So what you do is you go to View, go to Display Performance, and right now we're on typical display. You can go even faster, and it's even more sort of compressed, or you can go to High Quality. So I'm just going to hit High Quality, and you'll notice now all the curves are pretty much perfect. I mean, there's a little bit of step in, but that's probably because we're at 157% and not an exact size. Okay. So I'm just going to get rid of that guide. Just for those that want to know, you can toggle guides on and off by hitting Apple semicolon, and they turn things on and off. You can also get to that in View, Guides, and there you go, Show Guides, Apple semicolon. Now, a lot of these key commands are actually identical in Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign, and that is actually one which is identical. So to turn guides on and off, you can toggle that Apple semicolon in any 3 of those programs, and it does exactly the same thing. And you'll find a lot of the keyboard shortcuts are identical through all the 3 programs. Okay, so our looking at our layers in InDesign, I've got one called Illustrator Template, one called Photoshop Template, and one Illustrator Border. Now, the Illustrator Border you don't need to worry about. You can just kind of lock that. We don't want to move that, and we certainly don't want to, mess around with that, because that's this nice white border, or it's kind of a off-white. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to change these for the new ones. There's several ways of doing that, but I'm going to show you probably the quickest and easiest way. Now, if I select this is the Photoshop template. Now, you can't see which one I'm selecting, but you'll notice that this is key line around here, this edge is red, and that refers to the layer color. So you'll see on here it's red, and if I click on the Illustrator one, that's blue. Now I can't get to the blue, or you can just see I've selected the blue one there behind. Now that's because the other one is on top. If I was to lock that red layer, it would leave just the blue layer selected. Okay, but I'm going to undo that. So what I want to do is I want to select, I'm quite happy to select the Photoshop layer first. It doesn't really matter to me. I can do either or. And you'll notice that in my links palette, now, once again, if it's not up, then you need to open it up, and that's where it is. So Shift Apple D. When I select that red element, it selects this in the links. It says Photoshop Template. Now you remember that we actually saved the Photoshop as Photoshop Wiley Dog, and if it's yours, then it'll be your name. So what we need to do is we need to replace that document with the relevant one, because right now it's looking at the older one. So what we can do is we can click on this little box up the top here, and we can go Relink. And Relink's going to open up this dialog box and enable us to navigate to where the file is, the new file. So it was in the zip file, so I'm going to go to zip file, and I'm going to go Photoshop, and if I open that up, you'll see that's Wiley Dog. So I'm happy with that. That's the one I wanted. So I'm going to hit OK. Okay, so there you go. The Wiley Dog picture's in now. Now you also notice that the name and the stats are not here yet. So okay, so we've got the Photoshop document done. So what we can do is we can lock that one. So now what we do is we select the Illustrator template, and you'll notice that we selected that by the blue. That's the blue on that layer. And you also notice in the links that it's come up Illustrator template. Now once again, we know that's wrong. We know that needs to be Illustrator _ Wiley Dog. So instead of going up to this little option tag here, we can just select that layer. And if I hold down Control on the keyboard and click, and that will be a right click for PC users or 2-button mouse people, we can also get the same options. So if I let go of that, so these options there, and I get pretty much the same amount of options here. I'm going to go Relink, and I'm going to go and find Wiley Dog. Now it's automatically taken me back to that zip file, because it's kind of semi-intelligent. I'm going to click on Wiley Dog. I'm going to get open. Hey presto, it's changed the name and it's put the stats in. So that's pretty much where we're at, and that's all good to go. So now all that's required to do is to save this as a PDF, so you can email it to me. So first of all, I'm going to go File, Save, Save As. I'm not going to hit Save. I'm going to Save As, and I'm going to call this InDesign. Ooh, and once again, I'm going to call it Wiley Dog. Okay, I'm going to hit Save. Now there again, you've got some options down here. You don't really need. You just need to leave that on a CS3 document or CS4 document or whatever version you're using. Save. Okay, so when you're creating layouts and stuff, if I was to give the file that I've saved to a printing house or if I was to email that to someone, it doesn't actually hold all the images. The images that are actually in this layout are the images which are in that zip file. So if I was to send the saved document, the InDesign document called InDesign Wiley Dog, that wouldn't actually have saved all this type and this image, that would be back in the Illustrator file and the Photoshop file which I originally had. So a good way of being able to send people designs is to send it via a PDF. So it's kind of the pretty much de facto standard now to way of sending files and layouts. So how we do that is we go to File, and instead of hitting Save, we go Export, and let's hit Export. And what that's going to do, it's going to open the zip file again. It's going to show us all the files we had, and it's going to say what format do we want to export as. Well, we want to export as a PDF, so I'm going to hit PDF. I'm going to hit Save. Now, once I do this, it's going to ask me a whole bunch of questions. So let's do that. Okay. So this is the kind of default PDF dialog box, and it's the same in Illustrator, or it's pretty much the same in Illustrator and Photoshop. I've got a selection of presets, and I've got several different lots of different sort of options I can get. Options I can change things on. So one's general, so general kind of stuff, compression, marks and bleeds, that's all your crop marks, etc. So I'm going to go high quality, because obviously this is going to print and I want this to be like the best quality I can muster. So I'm going to go high quality. Now the compression settings, I'm just going to leave that completely alone, and there's not really any need to change that unless you really know what you're doing. Marks and bleeds, I could add crop marks, but in this occasion I don't really need to. I just want to keep that, or keep all those all off. The output, I don't want to do any color conversion. I want to leave that just completely as is. The advanced, I don't need to change anything. Security, nothing. And the summary just gives you a summary of what you've chosen. So that's, I can go back to general. Okay, so now pages, we've only got one page, so it's not really relevant. And these options, just leave them as they are. So optimize the web, you can leave that. Create tagged PDF, that includes all the color tags. We'll go into that more later date. So that's all good. I'm going to hit export. So you can see that it just quickly came up there, but it has to render and manufacture that PDF. And sometimes if you've got a really big document, that can take quite a while. So remember that if you're up against a tight deadline, because that could take a good 20 minutes if you've got a big document. Okay, we're sorted there, and that's just about done. So I'm going to close this down and click back on the background. I'll open that, and then we've got our PDF, Wiley the dog, or Wiley dog. I'm going to just open that on the PDF viewer, and hey presto, we've got our card on a white background as a PDF. And that brings us to the end of the tutorial. Obviously, I would love it if you would stylize or certainly try to add something to your picture to make it be creative, shall we say. Also, there's the back of the card to do. I shall endeavour to get up an instruction video about that at the weekend, as I'm running out of time now. But I hope you enjoyed the introduction to those three applications. It's definitely the start of things to come, and it's only just the basics. But we want you to be familiar and to kind of not be afraid of the programs, and just kind of dive right in and see where you get to. The worst that can happen is you lose your work. So if you make sure you save every now and again, it's pretty safe. You're not going to do any harm, and I would just get in there and use the Adobe products as much as possible, because the only way to really learn is to make mistakes. Alright, great. Thanks for listening. I will see you in class.